Oh yeah. If you guys played this as a child, you definitely remember it. For me, it was a very memorable game. One of the few that I actually loved growing up. And if you're too young, maybe didn't own a Super NES or even a Genesis, I think it was on Genesis, and even Game Boy maybe at some point. But this game was the shit. And for those that don't know, this is actually developed by Blizzard before they became Blizzard. They also made Blackthorn, which was awesome, Lost Vikings, which I actually never played Lost Vikings. I feel like I'm missing out. Maybe I'll go back and check that out. But yeah, this game, what a trip seeing this game again. And the reason I'm playing this and what I ultimately want to talk about in this show is nostalgia. And the fact that most of us don't realize how dangerous it is. And they say that sound and audio is the one thing that truly brings back the feeling of nostalgia. When you hear music or sound effects or, voice, whatever it is, there's something about audio that just induces nostalgia way more than visuals. And I'd have to agree with that for sure. When I hear this music, it's just like, how could you forget it, So nostalgia being dangerous. And what I mean by that is, I don't think a lot of people sit down and think what nostalgia means. And I'm gonna relate this to gaming, but it's for anything. Movies don't change a lot. Movies are just, if a movie has a great story and it's executed well, you can go watch really old movies and they're amazing. And the same is true for some games, but for the most part, the technology really pushes games more than any other medium. Music, you can go listen to old music, it's still great music, but some of the old games, especially the very first 3D games, are really they're really poor. And 2D stuff like platformers and side scrollers or any sprite based games, those all hold up because the pixels are still crisp. But when you look at a really ugly texture on a 3D model, it just there's something about that's just really ugly and bad. A lot of you may have games that you really resonate with, games that you grew up with, games that you played the hell out of, and I'm actually curious to know what games you guys really miss, or maybe not miss, but just really hold high regards for. For me, the games that I first think of when thinking about, nostalgia or childhood or whatever, Final Fantasy VII for sure. One of my favorite games. I was just blown away by how much content was in that game when I was a kid, and how long it took to beat and all that. And the cinematics were amazing at the time. But if you go watch them now, it's they're so stiff and gross. It's pretty funny actually. But let's see, Final Fantasy VII and what else? Specifically thinking about console games, Duck Hunt for me was a big one. I didn't play it a ton, but I just remember that goofy ass dog, and I could still hear that sound effect of him laughing. And the way the gun worked and how you could cheese it by sticking the gun right on the screen. We also had a power pad. Do you guys remember the power pad? Oh man, we lived in an apartment and we couldn't even use it. We had to we had to play lightly on it because it would because we lived on the second floor. Of course I played the Marios and the Zeldas and all that. N64, definitely GoldenEye. How many of you guys played GoldenEye? Because for me, it was all about the split screen multiplayer and just how customizable the sort of setup of that game was. And how everybody always cheated. You'd be playing with your brother or whatever, and bro, I know you're cheating. Stop looking at my screen. You always had that one asshole friend who would ask you to come over and play games, and then just look at your side of the screen the whole time, blatantly. But anyways, getting back on topic. So the scary part is when sequels get created of games that were really, really old. such as Diablo 2 and D3, which, I mean, the game is 10 years old now, and so these people that are going to play D3 now played D2 back when they were teens, and so they're going to just like have this totally different view towards video games in general, and they want to go back and experience what they did when they were 13, but the truth is you just can't. And then you get these people with the mentality that, you know, the game's just never gonna live up to that hype, that standard in your brain of what you thought the experience was. And the reason for that is really because you can never go back to that same state of mind, and so much has changed, not only in the video game world, like the technology and all that, and like the standards for specific things, but also just your state of mind, like what you were thinking, the way the chemistry in your brain worked, like it's all changed. And like after I've played the game to death, I don't want to play that game again, but my brain wants to go back to wanting to play that game again because of how fun it was. So when people say like, this game will never be like Diablo 2, when they're talking about D3, it's because it won't. It truly won't. And it's the same reason why StarCraft players, like old Brood War players, hate on StarCraft 2, is because they're different games. They're different experiences at, you know, different times in our lives. And so we'll never get that same old feeling of what we had with the original game. And so this is really a hard thing for developers, and I feel like if we just, as gamers, took the time to realize what nostalgia actually is and why we feel the way we do, instead of just saying, oh, you know, nothing will ever live up to the hype of this, or nothing will ever live up to my standards, or the game industry has just changed in a you know, bad way because games in the past were way better. That sort of thinking is very dangerous, because the game industry always has to be evolving and growing and trying new things and innovating. Because if we get stuck in old ways, you know, what new fun is there going to be? You know, I know a lot of people are upset that there's no hostile, you can't go hostile on each other, right? So you can't PvP in the main game or whatever. But in actuality, that was never a well done, thought out mechanic. It was just like, you know, you want a PvP, you go hostile on them, and then you can kill them instantly. It really got turned into this way to just grief. And, you know, while on one hand, I do think that dueling in the open world, you know, whether it's 1v1, 2v2, whatever, dueling in the open world, I think, is a good thing, just for the sole purpose to change up the environments and not have it be so stale and redundant, you know, especially for video content creators. Don't want their videos to look the same. I think they would have to implement it more as like maybe not how WoW does it specifically, but like you have to sort of accept that this guy wants to fight you, instead of just him being able to fight you at any time, any given time. Some people might think it's softcore, or, you know, they want the way old school games were, and I hear you. Like, I have a lot of problems with MMOs and the way they're created nowadays. I miss that sort of open world environment of you can do whatever you want. There's no factions like there is now. Like, WoW really changed the game for MMOs. Everything's faction based now, and everything, you know, is battlegrounds and that sort of stuff. And it's really sad because I feel like they could make open world games again. Here I am nostalgia tripping myself. But that's one thing I miss about old MMOs, specifically. The fact that games never had factions, and you weren't automatically fighting people that you had no idea, or you really don't have any connection to, or despise them or hate them. You're just fighting them because the game told you so. I really wish a game could do that justice again. But do it with, you know, a modern style. I'm not saying I want old games to come back. Anyways, guys, I'm going to make this episode kind of short. I want you guys to leave in the comments what you guys love to nostalgia trip about with your friends. Specifically, what games. Real quick, I want to say thanks to all those who commented in the last video.
I really appreciate that.
It's cool to finally see some people genuinely like the effort I'm putting into this, and it's cool to get that feedback. So thanks guys, and keep it up.
And something real quick I wanted to show you guys. I got invited to Google+. And I want to show you this real quick. There's this thing on the left called Sparks. You see that? I'm hovering it right now. If you go there, it shows featured interests, and of course, what are you gonna type in there? Diablo 3. And I just wanted to show you this because I thought it was funny. You go here and boom! Just scroll down a little bit. What's up? So yeah, that's cool. I don't know how they track this stuff, but it's pretty cool. And you got Force there, you got Dodger there. And yeah, so it just shows you like a list of, you know, recent stuff related to Diablo 3. So pretty cool, pretty cool.
But yeah, I'm gonna leave you guys there. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Whoa!